Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do another video, which is kind of an update of the series that I have been doing around working with Expo Router. So this is a blog post that I've done with Expo Router and tab navigation. All the source code is here for the tab. This is a video that you should check out to get some context, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the application that we built in this blog post and in this video, and I'm going to add Supabase Authentication to it. For those of you who follow me, I really like to check out the documentation so that people can use the documentation as a reference to what they're building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage this Supabase getting started tutorial with Expo. This does not use Expo Router. So what we're going to do is we're going to leverage kind of the stuff they've already done to show you about Supabase, and then we're going to marry it with this blog post that already exists on how to create tab navigation using Expo Router 2. So these can be two resources that you can leverage to figure out how to get your application started. So hopefully this is something you find enjoyable, and let's get to the code. Okay, so here we are in the application. The application's running. As I said before, this is a simple two-tab navigation, tab 1, tab 2. I also have in the code the ability to kind of navigate down to the second, to a detail page from the top, and that's about it. And just kind of a quick review of how this code works. We have our index page here. When the application launches, it just comes in and redirects you directly to the tabs group. And then here inside of tabs group, we have a home folder, and inside the home folder, we have our layout, which says how the home layout is going to be. It's just a stack. And then we have one file. Actually, we have two files in there. We have the default page for that stack, which is the home page of the index, which is the index page or the home page of the home tab. And then we have this next page, which is a page that you navigate to using this link in the href to get you to the next page. The second tab is the settings tab. And each one of these folders has a layout, so its layout is just a stack layout. And then inside of it, it has an index, and there's only one page in here. And then the whole tabs folder has a layout, which is kind of this top level navigation element of a tab, which kind of talks about the index screens for both of the two pages, the home page and the settings page. And those are all the files we have right now in the application. And so we're going to add a couple more files to kind of get authentication working. But like I said, we are going to follow the Supabase documentation on how to get the project set up first. So I know one thing for certain is that I need a .env file in here to kind of hold my Supabase credentials. So I'm just going to add that file now, .env. And we're going to cut the video for a second as I paste in these codes. Okay, so now we have our .env file set up, which is what we definitely know we're going to need for the application. And now let's take a look at how we get a React client set up inside our Expo application. So here we are back in Supabase documentation. You're welcome to kind of go over this yourself. I'm assuming that you already have a project set up. They give you clear instruction in here on how to set up the project, and you can walk through it to get it going, so we're not going to cover that here. We've already created an application, but let's start importing some of these imports that we know we're going to need. So let's just copy all of them. And we're going to come down here and we'll just add a new, let me close this. We'll add a new folder. We'll add a new terminal window here, and let's paste all these guys in. Okay, so it looks like we're all set. Let's pop over here to look at our package.json. And so it looks like we got all the things that we needed installed here. One of the things that I like to do at this point is to just run Expo Doctor. Sorry, this is npx Expo Doctor, I believe. All right, this is why I always like to run this first to make sure we're not missing anything, or make sure we have kind of the most up-to-date stuff. So let's just run this fix. All right, so it ran the fix. Let's just run the doctor again. All right, and looks like everything's good. Let's clear that. Our app is running fine again. And then now let's go back to the documentation. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating this main, this live Supabase TS file, and what this is doing, it's going to give us it's going to export this Supabase client that we're going to use throughout the rest of our application. So this basically what this approach is doing. It's isolating kind of the creation of the client to one place in your application. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. So let's just copy this, and we'll just do like they say. We'll create our live Supabase.ts file also. So we'll go in our apps directory, we'll create our live folder, and then inside our live folder, we'll create a Supabase client. I'm going to name it a little bit differently, client.js. We'll paste everything in here. We are not using TypeScript, so we will kind of get rid of the types. So we will get rid of this type. Actually, we got to get rid of all the types. I didn't realize they use types in here. So let's just get rid of them all. All right, so we have all the types out. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to import our .env files. And if you remember correctly, Expo now supports the importing of .env files without any kind of additional magic, i.e. importing some other library to manage it. It manages it for you. So let's just put our values in. So we should have our keys. Expo, property, Expo. Oh, my bad. This is process.env. And then we do the exact same thing down below. Let's see what's going on here. Let's stop this and try to get this guy a restart. I've done a bunch of things, so let's let it run again. And let's reload. So it looks like it's not getting my .env file variables loaded in. So it's not properly loading my .env files in. It looks like I put the wrong data in, so let me correct that. Okay, I updated my .env file. Let's kind of clear this, stop this server, run it again with the proper variables in there. Okay, let's try to reload this thing. Okay, and it looks like everything's right now. Okay, so we now have our Supabase client installed. And just a little bit more of what's going on. I mean, normally when I've done this in the past, I've used the React Native community's, what is it called, async storage. But this is how they did it in the Supabase documentation. Looks like it's using Expo, so we'll just go with the Expo. So now we have our Supabase client. See, we've exported it from here, so it will give us access to it in other places within our application. So now the first thing we want to do is we want to modify what happens when the app starts up. And so to modify what happens when the app starts up, we're going to come right here to our kind of index page. And so let's kind of rename this so it all makes sense. So this is our index page. And since this is going to get hit first when the app first starts, this is where we are going to make the decision of whether to go to the tabs homepage or whether to show a login page. And then we'll put the login page up in, let's do that now. We'll put the login page up here inside of kind of another segment, and we'll create an auth segment up here. And then inside of the auth segment, let's create our layout.js file. And then our layout.js file is going to be very similar. Our layout.js file is going to be pretty straightforward. So our layout.js file really is just a basic stack. And so let's rename this so it makes sense. And we're going to call this auth layout. And so this is the layout for our auth segment. And so inside of our auth segment here, we need to create a login page. And this is kind of where we won't reinvent. This is where we'll ignore the error until we do a recompile. This is where we won't reinvent the wheel. So let's go back over to Supabase documentation. They already have this login component here. There's no reason why we shouldn't use it. Let's just see what it does. Looks like they have sign in and sign up all on one page. Just for simplicity's sake, let's just copy it and leave it the way it is. So when you kind of go back through this on your own and you want to look at the documentation, that it also makes sense. So we've kind of copied this. Let's paste it in, and then we'll kind of talk about what's going on. Looks like I can't because they are using React Native elements here. What we'll do is we'll copy this in. They're not using it that much. It looks like they're just using it for button and input, so we'll just replace those with regular React Native elements and apply our own style to that. So let's go back to the code. We'll paste this into our login screen. And so as you see, we need to address this input and the button. And so what we'll do here to address that is we will change all of these inputs to text input. And those are just regular React Native calls. So let's change that. And let's change this. And let's remove this left icon thing because that's going to probably cause us some problems. Left icon, let's get that out of there. And then the other thing that we want to do is we need to fix these buttons. Well, actually, let's see how the buttons turned out with just regular React Native and the styling they've applied. So let's remove this. And let's go up here and add button. And then let's, actually, let me see what we got going on here. So we will kind of edit this a bit, and we will change this to button because we know title doesn't work here. And then in here, we will put text, and we will say sign up. SIGNUP, and kind of get rid of that. And then let's copy this. Actually, no, we don't want to copy it because it's signed up with email. So we'll just take this title out here. We know this is a button. We'll end our button, and then inside of here, we'll put another text field. And in here, we will say sign in. Let's space this out. Let's fix this import because we're not getting Supabase from there. We're getting it from, I believe it is util. Let's see. We go to lib and Supabase client. Okay, I don't know why we're getting this strange error, so let's just kind of Control C and start our server all over again. And let's try and reload over here. Okay, but what we want to do, let's just make sure the style of our login page is right. So we're going to hop over here and we're going to just default our redirect to our login page just to make sure we have the style right. So let's say auth and then login. Reload. All right, now let's fix some of these errors. I didn't import text. So let's go to auth login, import text. Title prop of button must be, oh, I had it backwards. I'm thinking about touchable opacity, which is what I normally use. So my bad. This actually title does belong in here. Been using touchable opacity for so long that I've just completely forgot how to use button properly. So let's hope that I am doing the right thing here. And let's fix this other one. Button. And this one is sign in. Let's remove this child because it doesn't make sense. And let's remove this child because it doesn't make sense. And this is what we get. It's not very pretty. So there's I have to apply some styles. Just give me a minute here to apply some styles to this so that it looks a little bit better. All right, so what I've done is it was just easier for me to just put this away I'm more comfortable with. So I switched the buttons to touchable opacity. So let me just walk through. So I wrapped this touchable opacity around my text called sign in. I imported some new styles, one for the button container and one for the text on the button. And so that's how the sign in button looks. And so we're just going to duplicate this for our sign up button. So we'll just copy this and we'll go down here and we'll paste this inside of this container, the vertically spaced. So there we have the sign in. We want to change this one now to sign up. And then we want to change the method to be sign up with email. And then let's delete this bottom button. format that. So now we have our two buttons for sign in and sign up. And then let's just do something with the style around these text inputs. So they look a little bit more clear. Let's give us a little bit more space so we can see kind of what's going on. And let's add some. Did I bring in my styles for the text input? Yeah. Yes, I did bring in styles for text input. Let's see if they work. So let's come up here to text input, styles, text input. Well, it looks like it's going to work. That's our password. And that's our email address that we need. Okay, sorry for the little delay there, but I think for this one, I'll actually just dump all the source code so that it's kind of clear, because I was trying to follow the Supabase doc, but it looks like I didn't review it and was a little bit different than I thought. All right, so we now have our sign in and sign up. And for those who are not familiar with Supabase, I'm assuming most of you are, you get the Supabase client, you use the auth on it, and on the auth object, there's a property called sign in with password. The sign in with password takes credentials for sign in with password. The credentials it requires are email and a password. Right now, the way this is working, we are getting our email and our password from this text input. We have the state variables up here, which are keeping track of the email and the password as they are changing and updating them with the set email and the set password respectively. When the user does click on the sign in button, which is the one on the top here, actually it's the same behavior for both. On sign in or sign up, let's go to the sign in. For the sign in, it will just utilize the values that it pulled off of the state. It passes them in and makes the call. If an error is returned, then we display the error message here on the alert. I'm going to change this a little bit because I want to know specifically what the error is. And so here we're going to start this and we're going to say this is error. We're going to say sign in error. And then down here, we'll change this alert to say sign up error. Sign up error. And let's just give it a little test now. Sign up requires a valid password. Invalid login credentials. All right, so we're getting the appropriate errors because these are both blank. So we know we have our screen in place, and kind of let's fix this title here on our screen, and we can do that by well, there's really only one page. I really could fix it here, but let's just fix it inside of the page here. And we'll do that by adding a stack screen and specifying the title. So we have the stack screens added, but what we need to do is we need to import stack. So let's import stack from Expo Router. Let's refresh. We don't want our title, so let's just call this Supabase Expo Router app. All right. So now we have our sign in or sign up. And so now we have our login page. So that's the only page we need. But let's get back to our index page, because here at our index page, like right now, we were just forcing it to redirect to our auth page, but we need to leverage the Supabase client to determine if we have a Supabase session. And if we have a Supabase session, then we should go to the login page. No, sorry. If you have a Supabase session, we want to go to tabs, home. If we don't, then we want to go to auth login. And so what we're going to do is let's look and see, let's go back to the Supabase doc, and we can scroll down to, we'll put the account page in later. Actually, I'll probably use my own account page because I know that they're using React Native elements. So I'm just going to create my own kind of profile logout page instead of using theirs. But here's what we want to do inside of our index page. See, they're checking if we have a session or not. And if we have a session, that's kind of determining the route. They're doing it a little bit different here with this view. We're just going to leverage, Expo Router, and we're just going to redirect. Not redirect, we're just going to route based off of the state change up here. So to get things started, we know we need the use effect. So let's take that over. So we'll come right inside of here. We'll drop in our use effect. Let's import use effect. Let's import Supabase. We want the client. That's our Supabase that we created. Let's remove React Native Paper. We are not going to do this session this way. what we're just going to do is we're going to say if session, then we are going to router replace, and then we're going to go to auth. No, if I have a session, then we're going to go to tabs/home. Okay, and then down here inside of this on auth state change, because this will be listening for all auth state change. If we have a session, then go to home, else router replace to auth login. Now let's do we have everything, all of our imports? So we don't need this at all. And we need up here router, and then let's allow reload and see if we're happy or not. Okay, so we don't have a session, so it's taken us here. We can verify that by let's just dump some log output. And then we'll also do the same thing down here. If session, go to tabs home, else no user. Okay, so let's refresh. All right, we have no user. I have a test user, so let's just test the test user first, and then we'll test creating a new user. All right, so Aaron2 did log in. That is a user. But what we're going to do now is we're going to change this settings page. We're going to add our log out button to it, and then we're also going to just show the user information here. And so let's go to our settings page, and it has this basic index file here that says settings. We don't need this text here. We are going to leverage, nope, we want our index page. Because what we are going to do is we are going to, here they're doing get session. We're going to do get user because we would need the user information. Let's just copy the whole use effect. And let's go to our settings page, and inside our settings at index, up here, we'll copy the use effects. Let's change this title. So we have the title in here. Let's do our imports. Our Supabase. Let's get our use effect. Session. We don't need our auth state change clearly. So all we're doing here, and we're not even going to say get session. We're going to say get user. Get user. This will give us the user details that come back. Let's see. So data is user or user null. So let's just leave it like this. Okay, that's better. So now we have the user object, and we'll put that there. If user. Actually, we don't even say if user. What we'll do is we'll say set user to user. Whoa. And we'll create our state up here, and we'll set it to that. Actually, let's set it to null. And let's kind of format this. And so now, and then let's throw an error. So if else error accessing user. We should never hit this because we should always have a user here, because we shouldn't be on this login page, but just wanted to put that check in there. And then what we're going to do down here is we're just going to JSON stringify the user object and kind of display it in the UI. And I got some code for that. I'm just going to drop in instead of kind of sitting here and typing it all. So what we've got going on here, added a few extra things. So we have our safe area wrapping it. We have our, sorry for jumping around. I cleaned this up a bit. So this is actually just user. Because we're going to use this user from the set user. All right. That will stringify the object and render it. We have a button that we're going to leverage for logout. Let me make sure I get the styles from my login page. All right. Let's see. Let's get all my imports. Import safe area. Let's import stack. We have text, we have view, we got to get our touchable opacity. I didn't want that. Let's move this back up here. And let's get style sheet. Okay, let's go over to our settings and see what we got. All right, it's saying user, use state, missed one, import. Let's add that. And settings, then bring my logout function over. So let's add our do logout. So this is what we're going to do when the user wants to log out of the application. So let's go down here, const do logout equals async, no properties. And then we are just going to use our Supabase client. So we're going to say await supabase.auth.sign out. And this only returns an error, I believe. Let's see. Yes, it'll only return an error if there's an error. So let's say error. And then we'll just borrow this code from here, drop it in, if error, alert error. Oh, I said assessing. This is an error. Signing out user. And this time we have a message. We'll say error. So if there's any error from signing out, logging out the user, we'll address that there. So now we should have all the pieces in place. Let's go back to settings. Here's the information on the authenticated user that I logged in. Here's the email information, so we know it's a user. Now when I log out, because of the way that we set up, where is it? Tabs. Because of the way we're handling this on auth state change, when I log out, i.e. there's no more session, I should drop down here to no user. Router should replace and send me back to auth login. So let's log out, and you can see I'm back here with no user. Let's create one last user to wrap this up, AARON, and we're going to call this 10@mail.com, password, sign up. We're in, go to settings. Here's my user, aaron10.mail.com, so we know everything worked. Let's not log out, let's refresh, because on refresh, we should find this session and redirect to the appropriate page. So let's refresh. It found the session, brought us back in, and has the user. And then let's do one last test where we're basically just going to shut this server down completely to make sure I'm not doing anything magical, pulling any tricks. We are going to rebuild this thing. Now let's reload this. It's reloading the bundle. And it brought us back in because it saved the session, and the session is correct. It's Aaron at 10.mail. So it worked. Everything is good. So let's go back through everything one more time. Of course, first of all, we set up our Supabase client. I added my .env file with all my keys. We create the client. We need to use this. We need to have secure storage for it to maintain the authentication state. The reality is that, because I looked up every single one of these, all the values that are set here are default values. So we can actually remove all of these except for, we can remove auto refresh token, and we can remove this one. But we do want to leave the persist session here to true, and then we have our storage set up. Normally, in most examples, you see people using async storage from the Yak Native community, but this is an example where we're leveraging Expo Secure Store adapter here. So that's what's going on here. So that's setting up the client. Now, when the app starts, we are here in index. In our index page for our application at startup with our use effect, we are checking for a session, and if there's a session, we're redirecting. Also down here, we are managing the authentication state. We're keeping track of the authentication state by listening. So that's why, if you notice, when I log out, I don't have to tell it to redirect to the login page, because Supabase auth state change will pick that up, and then it will just come down in here, realize I don't have a session, and it will redirect. When I log in and I get a session, we'll hit this auth state change, and then from the auth state change, it will just know to replace and take us back to tab route. The flow for the authentication, like I said, this is sending us where we need to go. And so then when it drops into auth route, we have our basic layout, which is a stack. We have one page inside of there, which is our login. We kind of collapsed everything into one page with our two buttons, our sign up button and our sign in button. Basic React native stuff here, two input fields, on state, on change text. We're updating our state variables, which we have at the top. One here for email, one here for password. The set loading true, I believe, is being used on the buttons to disable the buttons. Where is it? Yes, here to disable the buttons. When the user selects login, we're just calling the Supabase sign in with email, making the call. If we get an error back, we alert the error. But notice here that I'm not redirecting that. Since Supabase is managing my authentication state, it will redirect appropriately on the sign in and then also on the sign up with email. And then the last is here in our tabs and our settings page. We are getting the user information. Once again, using the Supabase client, we are setting our state with the user, and then down here, we're stringifying it so we get this UI to see everything that's there. We've added this logout button. The logout button calls to do logout, and then it calls the Supabase auth signout. If it gets an error, it alerts. Otherwise, Supabase auth will know if the session is over. If the session is over, based on the code that we have in our index app, no more session, it redirects the user back to login, and that's what you got. So hopefully you found this helpful and enjoyable. Like I said, the references that I utilized were the Supabase documentation, which we didn't really leverage it as much as I thought, but we got kind of the base stuff here around, let's click here, around kind of the Supabase library, which is essential for us to kind of get our client set up appropriately. We followed kind of in spirit their login page, but they were using React Native elements, so we had to kind of move away from that. We did not go into the account page. I guess if there's enough interest in this video, I will kind of migrate this stuff over, but it should be pretty straightforward. There's nothing kind of special going on here. Kind of the real purpose of my video was to show how to take an application using a tab navigation, implement an authentication flow on top of it. And so that's kind of what I really hope you're getting out of this. Once again, though, leverage this blog post and the source code here. I'll also include a link to the Supabase doc on how to kind of get your Supabase client set up. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I will put a blog post that kind of ties all the pieces together. I'll have all the source code from this video in the blog post. I will show the snippets that I pulled from the Supabase documentation in the blog post, and I'll also reference back to the original tabs blog post. So hopefully you found this helpful. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.